Hey everybody, this is the Knight's Tale podcast where we discuss the tips, tactics, and mindsets successful military veterans used during their transition after serving in the military. And what struck me the most about my interview with Micheal Steadman was his attitude. A lot of people talk about a can-do attitude, but Micheal has a get-it-done attitude and a get-it-done mentality, which I think is incredibly impressive and essential to a successful military veteran transition. And my idea of a visionary is someone that can turn something that someone else thinks is pretty much nothing into exactly what they want it to be. And I think Micheal Steadman definitely did that with his boxing academy in Newark, New Jersey, which he's going to talk more about. In this interview, we have a positive vibe, and I hope you enjoy. Micheal, thank you very much for being on the call today. How are you doing?
No worries, man. It's great to get on, and I'm excited about the opportunity to speak. So I am the president and co-founder of Ironbound Boxing Education, also known as Ironbound USA, and we're a nonprofit that oversees the Ironbound Boxing Academy, which is in Newark, New Jersey. And I'll share a little bit more about what the intent behind that. And then last night's event was actually it was the Bunker Labs and WeWork Veteran in Residence launch event. So essentially what happened is WeWork is giving veteran entrepreneurs free workspace in 10 cities across the country. We create cohorts of 10 members, and WeWork and Bunker Labs partner together to create this amazing program and really just get veterans access to the WeWork community and giving them the resources to help grow their ventures. And so last night we were basically introducing the New York City cohort. Now they came on board in January, so they've been operating about 3 months now. But this is really just like a coming out party for the program, especially with the first 6 months being a pilot phase for us, and really just getting people excited about what's going on at WeWork and what the Bunker Labs is able to do.
That's awesome, and it sounds like a really good opportunity, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So, Mike, how long were you in the military, and what was your job?
So I was actually I actually went to a military academy. So I graduated college from the United States Naval Academy in 2010. And then prior to that, I went to the Naval Academy Prep School. So really, I entered the military in about 2005. But I was in this like weird midshipman status, right? Which is where you're like active duty, but you're not actually out in the fleet because, obviously you're training to become an officer. But after I graduated Annapolis, I served 5 years in the Marines as an infantry officer. So I deployed to Afghanistan in 2012 and then Japan and the Philippines in 2014.
Oh, that's pretty cool. My brother was an infantry officer as well, but in the Army though. That's pretty cool. You've had a pretty long and successful career.
Yeah, I got out in, like I said, I only did 5 years. I got out in 2015, wanted to do something a little different. Right. And but I really had a good time in the military. I'm glad I did it. Made a lot of friends, and it's cool being a military veteran with that combat experience and having that infantry background and kind of like, I don't know, using that, I like call it that infantry mentality in the civilian world.
Yeah, and I mean, so this podcast is generally about the mindsets required to be successful in your veteran transition, and I'm glad you mentioned that you had that mentality. And can you dig a little bit deeper into that, like as far as how you were thinking or what your first thoughts were getting out? Were you nervous a little, or were you just excited about new opportunities and new things?
Yeah, so I know for one thing for me was when I first went in the military, I was like full of piss and vinegar, right? So I boxed at the Naval Academy, won 3 national championships there as a light heavyweight, 175 pounds. And everybody on my boxing team was pretty much going Marine Corps, they were going SEALs, they were doing EOD. So we really had this like combat-oriented mindset. And so before I was graduating, like all I wanted to do was go to the Marine Corps and be an infantry officer, right? And so, if you ask me what my job was, they made us pick like our top 3 jobs in the Marine Corps, and I would just put infantry. But again, as you start to age and, mature, like 23-year-old Mike Steadman was a lot different from 27-year-old Mike Steadman. And, the field and all that kind of stuff, just that hard lifestyle, it really started to kind of wear on me a little bit. And it was just, thinking long term, just like, okay, is this something I want to do, like the rest of my life? And really, sleeping in the woods at like 34, was not like on my list of priorities. And another thing too is just the transitional aspect of the military. So you're always moving duty stations. People are always coming and going. And I really wanted to coach boxing. And I knew that if I stay in the military, even if I work with a kid, chances are he's going to leave in a few years or I'm going to move in a few years. And so I really needed a place where I could be a little bit more consistent and not have to worry about that. And I decided to forego going to graduate school in Texas, where I'm from, and moving to Newark to start a boxing program. And my mindset at the time was, to be honest, is like for a lot of, especially officers, a lot of people get out and they end up going back to school, whether it's like to get an MBA, they go to law school, they really feel that time with something. And for me, I kind of felt like having that Naval Academy background, being a Marine officer, I'd basically done everything I set out to do. And I really just wanted to kind of, do something different, right? And put myself out there. I feel like I did everything I was supposed to do. Like I went to college, got my degree, served in the military. And so now was my time to kind of like, hey, go out on a limb and go do boxing. And I knew the Northeast would be a good fit just because in my mind, New York City is like the mecca of boxing, and boxing thrives in urban, gritty, inner city communities. And I just knew for a fact that Newark, New Jersey would be wide open for somebody with my background to come in and really set up. Because a lot of people aren't really moving to Newark, and it has a rough reputation. And it was a perfect opportunity for me to come here and get boxing going.
That's amazing. Yeah, and when it comes to opportunities and, being a veteran and being a visionary, I think sometimes those things are mixed a little bit. And in your, I watched your documentary, Fighting Chance, and I thought it was awesome. Fighting Chance is on YouTube. Everybody, please check it out. It's really inspirational. So when I saw that, you mentioned that, man, when you got to the gym, what became the gym, it was actually, different than, what it became. Can you like kind of touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I got to the city, obviously I didn't have a gym on my own yet. And so I was training kids at recreational centers, private gyms around the city. And I really wanted to have my own space because there were just certain things I wanted to do a little differently. And I felt like I would have more control, if we had our own building, our own space. And so essentially what I did was I made it a layup for the city of Newark. So I was kind of building my reputation with the city of Newark because they saw a lot of the work I was doing with the boxing program, my own boxing program. And, I reached out to them and asked them if they had a space somewhere in the city that we could outfit for a boxing gym. I told them they wouldn't have to pay for anything. All they got to do is give us a space, and then we'll outfit it ourselves. And by we, I meant I would reach out to friends, the veteran community, whatever it took to make this gym happen. And so I got the thumbs up from the city of Newark. They ended up giving me this abandoned space inside a recreation center underneath an abandoned stadium. And I knew at the time, like I didn't have my own nonprofit set up. And so I actually ended up partnering with a guy here in the city of Newark who was doing a nonprofit teaching personal branding. And so we partnered up. The name of his nonprofit was actually called Ironbound USA. And we partnered up to rebrand it as Ironbound Boxing and Education, also known as Ironbound USA, so still using that brand name. But now we just incorporated boxing into it. And so we got a bunch of graffiti artists to come in. Me and my business partner, his name's Gary Bloor. We came together. We started working on the space, started painting, started bringing graffiti artists in, started using our connection to get equipment. And then like, voila, over a few months, we really just changed the look of the space and really brought it to life.
That's amazing. And you also have relationships. So you built a lot of relationships with children in the city based on your experiences. Can you talk about your relationship with the community and how that sense of community has really, made Ironbound what it is?
Yeah. So the thing, again, you got to target your, looking at like your audience, right? So like I said before, Newark is a rough city. So anytime you talk about rough city, they're going to be kids out here. And that means they're not going to have access to a lot of programs. So essentially anything you can do will help. And so coming into the city, one of the first things I did was I just started training kids, right? So, early on, I was training kids at a for-profit boxing gym. So I would pick them up. I paid their gym membership form, and I was training them there. So they weren't paying anything. I just wanted to use the facility. And then I realized that, like, I could make a bigger impact if I didn't have to pay for that kind of recreation because, it's fine when it's like 2 kids at $30 a month. But when those, I start getting more kids, then those numbers start to add up. And so the city actually had a recreation center that they outfitted into a boxing program. And so that was able to give us access to free boxing program, where a place where I could go train the kids for free. And so I just started using that. And then really it was really the consistency piece, just being in there every day, training kids, get to know you. And then it was also a combination of my job. So I didn't come to Newark. Obviously, as much as I want to love and coach boxing, the kind of demographic I target is you're not really going to make money doing that. So I did have to take a job. And I work at a private school in Newark called St. Benedict's Prep that caters to urban youth, particularly Black and Latino males. And so my job at St. Benedict's, I live on campus and I run the school's residence hall. So that combined with going out in the community and boxing and then living with kids in the community, it just all really worked together to really hit the ground running.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. It seems like the kids inspire you as well. And you also talked about how you were inspired to continue your education, even though you had kind of done it all. You even went back to get your master's. So I think that was pretty cool as well. And when it comes to the process of running a 501c3 and things like that, what are some typical hurdles that you might face if you're going about that?
I think the first thing is that, like, nonprofits aren't sexy, right? So especially when you're talking about like startups these days and businesses and for-profit businesses. And so I think when people think nonprofit, it's kind of like, here we go again. Like somebody's going to ask me for money. And really you got to think strategically about like resources, right? Because you're not going to have the same level of support that other, for-profit businesses have. So you got to really think hard about it. And so early on, one of the challenges was just moving through the city of Newark, right? Getting stuff done, obviously working with the city because they had to fix the space up for us. So we put all the equipment in, but there were some lighting issues, some electricity issues, on that end, and just really being patient with the city because, from military background, we're used to just getting it done, right? It's all about mission accomplishment, but the city has different parameters for that stuff. And then you're working with contractors. So generally just that. And then also you got to be a jack of all trades. So you're running a nonprofit, you're coaching the kids, you're picking up the kids, you're doing all these different stuff, but you still have to do the social media. You still have to get the word out. You still have to fundraise. So really just, prioritizing everything and making everything happen. Oh, by the way, you still have to build out the gym.
Right. All the challenges, it seems like you embraced them and then you just executed. And I think that frame of mind is it's tough when you're transitioning, but then we kind of realize once we get our footing, oh shoot, I can do this and I can do that. So I really like the fact that you really knocked that out. As far as resources that, like, could you recommend any resources, like veteran resources, like the Commit Foundation or 4Block or ACP or anything like that?
No, well, so first thing is the most important thing, and you'll hear people tell you this all the time, but don't sleep on the connections you've already made.
Oh, yeah.
Friends and family, people you met in the military, duty stations, buddies, whatever, because really they're going to be like your biggest advocate. So I would say tap your first, your circle of trust, right? And don't do it in like a pyramid scheme kind of way. If you have real, friends and people are watching you, just getting out there and actually doing the work, people are going to see and make it visible. And more often than not, people are going to contact you to help, contribute. So like for me, all I did was put on Facebook that we had this gym, we're going to bring it to life. I was just sharing my excitement about the opportunity. And right away I had people contact me saying, hey, Mike, we want to contribute. Let's talk, And early on, I mean, not a lot of funds, but enough to, take the edge off. So, people contributing $1,000, people contributing in-kind donations. So really using that internal, your own internal circle. And then outside of that, I say there's a program in Stanford called Stanford Ignite, and it's a veteran entrepreneur program. And they basically bring veterans out to Stanford for 4 weeks, and you go through the full gambit of like how to start a venture, how to come up with a venture idea, and then pitching in front of a mock board of VCs. So being out at Stanford, being in that entrepreneur environment, being around great people, that was amazing. And the other thing is, like, more recently, when I came back from Stanford, I connected with Bunker Labs. And Bunker Labs is an amazing veteran organization that's like rebranding the term veteran, making it cool, fun, and exciting again around entrepreneurship and starting businesses. So really, like I said, Stanford Ignite, Bunker Labs, and tying back into using those own resources. Like the documentary that you mentioned before, that was through Rutgers Newark, where I'm a graduate student at. And again, it's just leveraging that resource. I go to school there. I know they do this series. I reached out to them about potentially collaborating for a boxing piece, and, it all worked out. So, really use what's around you, be aware, and, just get it done.
Right. Get it done. That's a common phrase that I see you like to use. That's awesome. And it seems like that's your one of your frames of mind. So just to wrap it up here, I wanted to ask you a couple more, or just one final question as far as your plans for the future in terms of Ironbound and where you see it going. And then if you could, or if you would like to, you could wrap it up with a way for people to get in contact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, like, one of the priorities for us with Ironbound is we have a boxing, in addition to having our boxing camp, we have a legitimate boxing team, right? And so that's one of the nice things we do is, we get kids in the academy, we start training them, and then, once they show their willingness and commitment to compete, obviously they get their team jackets and everything. So, one of the things I'm looking at right now is really getting that team sponsored to cover food and travel costs, because a lot of what we're doing right now, we've bootstrapped, right? So, friends and family to help us actually build out the academy, but actual operational costs, whether it's registering kids, a lot of that, all that's come out of our pockets. And so now, as the program's growing, I feel the need to really reach out and get sponsors. And then other than that is really just growing this whole concept of giving kids access to free recreation and looking for the most beneficial way to do it. So we're targeting a specific demographic. We're targeting inner city youth, but, young teens and young adults, right? Because if say you're in Newark and you're 18, 19, even 22, you're working a minimum wage job, right? Outside of food and shelter, you don't really have a lot of excess expenses if you want to go to a boxing gym or go do CrossFit or do something fun, right? Like improve your quality of life. And so what we realized is that, like, hey, we can't forget about these guys, because a lot of times, when you talk about youth, everybody kind of like cuts it off and focuses only on kids. But those young adults that are still figuring life out, they need support too. They need stuff to keep them motivated. And so finding out an efficient way to get them access to quality programs, so stuff that they're interested in. And that's why we use boxing, because boxing is fun, it's exciting, it really speaks to the urban youth. And we want us to spread this message of connecting boxing with education and helping people, gain confidence in themselves through it. And, obviously being a part of Bunker Labs, spreading that message to Bunker Labs community. And one thing I'm excited about that I didn't mention before is we're also hoping to do an apparel line for Ironbound. So we got this product line we want to put out there to also help spread the message and help give people an opportunity to support our mission. So a lot of exciting stuff, but really it's all about just persistence, constantly working, constantly doing stuff like this, taking podcasts, and spreading the message.
And Mike, I definitely appreciate you, and thank you for your service, and thank you for what you're doing in New Jersey with our youth. It's just amazing, and thanks for everything, and thanks for doing the podcast. Is there an email where people can reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested in learning more about, Ironbound or Bunker Labs or anything in general, you can reach me at mike@ironboundboxing.org. My Instagram is @IronMikeSteadman. And our website is www.ironboundusa.org. We're going to be relaunching the boxing gym website here in the next couple of weeks, and it's ironboundboxing.org. So you can actually see the site now, but we got some exciting stuff we're going to put on there to update it for you all. But yeah, I'm an open book. Anything I can do to help the community, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm still in the entrepreneur grind myself, as well as my business partner. But anything I can do to help you guys is, I would love to. So,
Well, Mike, thanks again, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, man.
This podcast was brought to you by Banneret, the company that enhances veteran transitions by up to $70,000 in 2 years by way of education and training. To learn more, email robert@banneret.org.